Hi, this is Emily Steele, and thank you all for watching the Shemya Stories. I want to thank everybody who's participated around the island. You're about to witness many people actually, your friends and coworkers, sharing some of their experiences here on Shemya. And before you hear all those, I kind of wanted to explain why we're putting this together. Because Shemya is a unique place, and it's actually Memorial Day as I'm recording this, so it's equally pertinent. And so I wanted to explain why we're doing these Shemya stories to begin with. So Shemya, as many of you know, has a very long history with the military, and actually on the 28th of May 1943, which it's May 25th right now of 2020, so 77 years ago, almost to the day, is when the first group of America military members came out to the island. There were 17 of them, and they were looking at this place as a launching point for combating Japan in World War II. Of course, you can see Attu from here, which at the time there was a battle raging, the Battle of Attu, to take it back over from the Japanese. So 2 days after that initial 17-man landing party got here, 2,500 soldiers rolled up on the rock, and there was no infrastructure here, completely barren wasteland, and within 25 days of that happening, there was enough of an airstrip constructed that there was a plane landing on this island, which is just incredible. Like, I think about when I go outside with all my modern gear and spend an hour out watching a project or doing something. I am so grateful to come back into Building 600 where there's heat most of the time and it's warm and dry. I could take a hot shower, but these guys didn't have any of that. They were away from their families, at war, and the 18th Combat Engineers is the engineering group that did a lot of the construction out here back then, and that same unit had been part of building the Aleutian Highway in 1942, which is a whole nother fascinating story. But you just think about these young guys, they volunteered to serve their country, and I'm sure they didn't expect to be fighting bugs and cold weather in Canada, Alaska, and then coming here to Shemya, and they left from Adak to come out to Shemya, and Adak is where the attack party for the Battle of Attu left from, so I'm sure they're so close to the action, and some of them probably just wanted to get out there and really fight the enemy, but instead they got assigned here to Shemya, which of course a lot of people left and got shot down and never came back who left from Shemya, so many people from Shemya did give their lives, but a lot of the guys that came out here to construct, they never got to see battle, but they had a lot of morale. They understood that what they were doing is important, or was important, for fighting Japan and protecting our country at the time in World War II, and then we all carry on that legacy today. So I just think it's amazing, the people who made Shemya. Within a year, there was ice cream coming out to this island, and when you look at the aerial photographs of all of the different things that used to be here, I mean, there's so much more. It would take like 25 years to build what they built within a year, and within a year they had ice cream coming out here, which is just like, you know, ice cream is a luxury, but they had constructed so much in the year that that was something they could support. So I just think that's an incredible story, and a legacy that we all carry on today. Every single person out here is supporting Homeland Defense, or protecting our nation, carrying on the mission, even if you're not wearing a uniform, especially if you're not wearing a uniform. Everybody out here is contributing to that, and so I just want to say thank you to all of you who make Shemya home. It was really cool to hear everyone's different perspectives and little tidbits about the island. I thank you for being a part of this cool community of Shemya, what you do, and I hope you enjoy hearing everybody's little Shemya stories. Thanks.
It's not going yet.
Okay,
Red
go.
light's on.
I'm Leonard Lindsay. I've been on Shemya since 2004.
Okay.
I'm Tim Lucas. I've been on Shemya since 1997.
Awesome.
And before our current wonderful aircraft we have, the G4, the flight to and from Island back in those back was a C-130.
Ah.
Yeah, it was a very comfortable ride. That was a joke. It was always either too hot or too cold, very slow. And
How long did it take to get here?
if you stopped at King Salmon, it was 6.5 hours from Elmendorf to here. If you didn't stop, it was like 5
Oh, wow.
to 5.5. And if the weather was bad, it was that far out here and then all the way back without stopping. So, and the seats, if anybody's not been on a C-130 before, they only put down enough seats for the exact number of passengers. And you're sitting with the cargo, and the seats are like lawn chairs. So they're not really comfortable. And if you have a lot of people, I was on one flight, there were 65 people on it, plus cargo. And they have a row of seats on each side of the plane, and then 2 rows in the middle facing the outside, and our knees were locked together like that. So, and if you had to use the restroom, which was another treat, so.
An adventure in its own.
Yeah, a funnel and a pot. That was it.
Oh, wow.
With a curtain that you pulled around, and if you had to do that on that flight, it was, you had to step over people to get to the back of the plane.
Wow.
And you would get to the terminal like 4?
Yeah, 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, man.
We wouldn't get out here after they loaded up, and we wouldn't get out here till like 2 in the afternoon sometimes.
Wow.
So
Yeah, so you load up on a bus at Elmendorf at the terminal. You go through security. You load up on a bus. Then you drive out to
the
into nowhere at the flight
terminal's
line.
on one side of the runway, and the aircraft was on the other side, but you had to drive all the way around the end and get on the other side, and then load up. And in the wintertime, it's 5-10 below zero. Every door in the aircraft is open. The only heat is piped into the cockpit, and so you're sitting there freezing until they load up the aircraft and get everything going and close the doors, and then they'll turn the heat on for you.
Wow.
So it's a little chilly in the wintertime.
And now we have the plush G4. When did that happen?
The reason we got rid of the C-130s is because in 2004 there was the great tsunami in the Indian Ocean, and they had to deploy all the C-130s out of Anchorage to do rescue operations down there. So we went to the G1 at the time, which was a prop aircraft.
Yeah.
Still
twin turbo prop.
took 6.5 hours, but it held 15 people.
Yeah, it was more comfortable, except it didn't have a restroom on it. So that's a long flight.
Yeah.
Until later on, they added one, but if you're my size, you couldn't get it. So
Yeah, the G2.
it's worse than on a regular aircraft restroom. So,
Well, what about when the G2 when they had the guy they couldn't close the door?
yeah.
Yeah. The restroom was so you couldn't close the door, and then the G2 was like regular airline seating, so the bathroom was up front,
Yeah.
and so he couldn't close the door, so you had to look at like the disco.
And then you got the G3. They had 2 G3s they got
Two
from the
G3s.
Danish Air Force,
Yeah.
and they put seats in that. That was pretty sweet.
Then we had the Guantanamo plane where they had to take all the carpeting
Yeah.
out.
And we had one that was owned by Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
I think I rode on that one. That
Yeah.
was super nice.
And of course, then there were rumors that 2 country singers, Faith Hill and Tim McGraw, we were using one of their aircraft. That was a rumor, though. So
That was like the G200 when we had that. That was
Yeah.
supposedly one of the what's those sisters who do the tennis?
The Williams?
Williams
sisters,
sisters.
yeah.
Yeah, they supposedly flew on that.
Wow.
So, but we only had the G200 for like, what, 6 months?
yeah,
Wasn't much. It was a nice plane. It was a
yeah.
wonderful plane.
Then we got the G4.
Yeah.
Now here we
That
are.
was nice.
Yeah, but the C-130 days are not missed at all.
They're not fond. They're not fond memories. Most of them.
You would have, I would say 60% of the time, the plane wouldn't land here.
Yeah, the pilots didn't want to come out here.
Oh, wow.
But it was considered a successful mission taking off from Elmendorf and landing at Elmendorf was a successful mission.
Yeah.
So they didn't care about landing here.
Yeah.
I mean, you would get up in the air and be flying around for like an hour, and as you're flying out to Shemya, the sun shines in from the left side of the aircraft. So you're going along, and then you'll lean back and you close your eyes, and next thing you know, they turn the aircraft so slowly and so slightly that you open your eyes and you look, and next thing you know, the sun's coming in the other side of the aircraft, and you're going, oh no, we're headed back in for some reason. Or you'll fly along, and all of a sudden you hear one of the engines just boom, shut down, and or they'll come back and they'll say, we're heading back, we've got a problem with the aircraft, we're going back, and they'll turn. And a lot of times, I remember one time, C-130 supposedly, all the different windows in the cockpit, evidently they're heated by, power, they're heated. And they have one window that wouldn't heat up, so they canceled the flight for that. So I don't know if that's
I remember.
if that's a good reason, but that's what it was.
I remember one time in billeting, we're all ready to get on the bus to go down to the terminal to leave. And 5 minutes out. Okay. Wow. Okay. Getting down to the terminal on the bus. Okay. And then, plane canceled.
Yeah.
Going back.
Oh my goodness.
Drive back up. Get off the bus. I'm going back, taking my bag off the bus. There goes the C-130. Here comes the Coast Guard C-130.
Yeah.
Lands. It's like,
Coast Guard, they would land and it was like it was shaming the Air Force.
Yeah.
On those days. But it was, I remember one time we left here, just me and one other passenger, and hardly any cargo. And the pilot he had flown out here quite often, I guess, and none of the other crew had ever flown out here. So, and even the loadmaster. So we take off and we're flying, we're heading west towards Attu, and it's like we never turned left, we never turned right to head, left to turn around, or we never turned right, and headed straight for Anchorage. We just kept going. And the other guy and I were looking at each other, it's like, where are we going? What are we doing? And we're still flying. And next thing you know, you look, and we're not that high up. The next thing you know, you look out and you see tundra grass, outside, like side of a mountain. And we're going along and says, where are we at? What are we doing? And then the next thing you know, it's like he pulls it up and we're in a steep climb. And we had flown to Attu. He wanted to show the other guys what this looked like. We flew to Attu and then went up and over the mountain and down the other side. And they were having a blast up there. We were wondering what was going on. And then once we got on the other side, he turned and headed towards Anchorage.
Wow.
in July of 2004, we had the C-130 that never left. So it arrived, landed, everybody got off. All the new people get on. And we had a guy I was working with at the time. So you spent basically the whole day waiting for the plane to get here. So by the time it was time to take off here, it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right? So we're sitting, dining hall, got the radios on, and we're listening. And the plane, they lowered the people on the plane. Plane goes up to the end of the runway. Pilot didn't have enough visibility for takeoff. So they sat at the end of the runway with the engines running, and they're running. And the guy I worked with, he fell asleep on the plane. Well, finally, they had to come back in. We've been at the end of the runway to refuel the plane. We've been out there for like hours. They come back in. They go, hey, wake up, gotta get off the plane. Oh, we're in Anchorage already? Oh, great.
Yeah, no, we're not there yet.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we wouldn't leave. They wouldn't get out here till late. And then by the time they unloaded cargo and loaded other cargo going back, we wouldn't get into Elmendorf till midnight, 2 in the morning,
Wow.
and then try to find a taxi to get,
Yeah.
to the
Wow.
airport or to hotel. And maybe you missed your flight because we got in so late.
And if you did turn around and you landed back at Elmendorf, if it's, if you were lucky, they would say, "Oh, we're not flying tomorrow," and you could get a hotel room. If you were unlucky, it's like 10 o'clock at night, and oh, be back here at 4 a.m.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
And most of us don't live in Anchorage, so
Yeah.
we're scrambling to find hotels for a few hours.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Well, so not many things get better on Shemya per se, but maybe the flights.
Well, aircraft has gotten better. Flights have gotten better. They're more reliable, the pilots, than that we have now. They have a lot better success rate,
Yeah.
with landing when they come out here. So
Good. Cool.
a lot better.
Yeah. And maybe later we'll talk about the adventures with Pete.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Pete
we'll
the
do that in
pilot.
another video.
Well, thank you for your sharing your Shemya story.
Sure.
My name is David Portis. I'm a firefighter at the Eareckson Air Station Fire Department, and this is my Shemya story. I guess you can say it started in '92. I was an airman stationed in California, and I was getting bored. So I put in for a remote assignment. Korea, who knows where. And I got Shemya. I asked a couple guys, and all they did was laugh and say, "You're going to the Rock." I had no idea what I was getting myself into. So I show up at Shemya around '93 and had the greatest year for a young guy. Met a lot of great people out here on the island. A lot of great firefighters that taught me a lot about the fire service. But at the end of that year, I said, okay, I had a great experience. I'm gone. I remember getting on the plane, and the fire trucks rolled out the station. They shot their turrets. We gave every firefighter that left a send-off. And I remember saying, okay, I'm gone. I'm never coming back. It was a great time, but that's it. Fast forward to 2004, and I'm out of the service. I'm a contract firefighter now for the government, and I'm working in Ecuador. And I get an email from the fire chief, Robert Boyd. He was my supervisor in the Air Force, and we were both stationed out here in '93. So I give him a call, and he says, hey, I'm starting the fire department out here at Shemya. Would you like to come back out here? And I said, sure. For a friend, yeah, I'll come back out here. I'll give you a year. So I came out here '03, '04, and once again, had a great time. Met a lot of good people. Enjoyed my year. But in the contract firefighting world, you have the opportunity to travel around and go to a lot of different places. So I left, and I went to Afghanistan. I did 3 years in Afghanistan. And around '06, I get a call from my brother. Now, I'm in a tent in Kandahar. And I get a call on a Friday night from my brother and says, hey, guess what? I'm a firefighter at Shemya Island. And he said, we're both firefighters. We both bounce around the world, but we've never worked together. What do you think about coming back out here and us working together? I thought about it and I said, sure. I never had the opportunity to work with my brother. I think that would be awesome. So I came back again to Shemya Island. And this was in '06. I stayed till 2013 when we had the big changeover, and I left. I thought, once again, that was it. I've enjoyed my time out here, but it's over. I went to Quaj. Did a year out at Quaj, and then, once again, I got another email with another offer to come back to Shemya. I came back in January of 2015, still here, and to be honest, I don't want to go anywhere else. I spent a total of probably 15, 16 years of my life out here, and I guess you can call it home because something keeps pulling me back here. And that's my Shemya story.
How's it going? My name is Joseph Albrecht, and I am here with Shanaga as one of the security teams. I've been on and off the island for about a year and a half now, and my experience here has been, I've had some pros and had some cons. A lot of good things, but one of the few things that really bothered me is the Shemya winds. I hate the Shemya winds. I'm not sure why. It just sucks. I've been to a lot of different countries and states where I've been in heavy winds and they weren't as bad until I just ran into the winds here in Shemya. It's like the winds from like north, east, south, west were just hitting you everywhere you went, and it just didn't feel good. It just made it even worse when it was raining or if it's snowing. The wind would blow, the snow would hit your face. It just felt like needles going through you. No matter where you're at, you're walking outside somewhere, it just comes at you and just gets you. There's been a couple experiences with the wind when we're driving down in the vehicle, open up our doors, and then all of a sudden, like all of our stuff just flies out because we forget that the wind is just blowing fast that day. Same thing when we're walking to work. You walk outside, you open that door, and all of a sudden you get that gush of wind that just blows you down the sidewalk, like all the way down to security base. It just pushes you like there's like no stopping to it. But that's my experience with the Shemya wind. Like, if you do come out here, just be prepared. That wind is no joke. My other good experience would be the double dip. I always heard about it. I've been wanting to do it. I just never got a chance to do it until Doc kind of made me do it. He kept on bothering me about it, so I just gave in. And I just told him, yeah, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it whenever I'm off. I did it. Went down to the little meeting that they had, that Doc had. Hung out with the crew that was going to do it. I think it was like me and probably 8 other people. So I rode with Doc in this ambulance down there, getting ready. The sky was nice. It was blue. It was clear. No winds. But as soon as we got down to where we got out the vehicles, it started snowing, and the wind started picking up a little bit, and I already knew it was going to be something bad was going to happen. I already expected the water to be cold, but as soon as I walked down the hill, the wind was blowing a little bit, so it kind of made me slide down the hill a little bit, kind of pushed me, and from there I was like already getting kind of upset because I wasn't going to have a good day because the wind was blowing and it started snowing. So when I got closer to the water, in my mind, I was going to kind of cheat a little bit. I wasn't going to dip my entire body in the water, hoping that no one was going to see me. But as soon as I got close to the water and I started walking towards it, I slipped, and my entire body was already under the water. So that right there was already a fail. So from there, I was already committed. So I got back out of the water, walked back to the other side to do the double dip. Mentioned to say that for some reason when I got out of the water, even though I was already soaked, it was a lot warmer for some reason walking towards the other side. And once I got into the other side, I jumped into the water. It was like the other side. It was cold. It felt like pins and needles going through you. And I was just glad that I finally did it. But for some strange reason, maybe 5 months later, I did it again, just to make up for what happened last time, just to make up for me falling down and maybe me trying to do it right the first time, throwing my entire body into the water without the wind forcing me into the water. So that right there was a fun time. I was happy that I got the certificate. I can put that on my wall. Maybe somebody would ask me about it one day and ask me what this is, and I was telling my little story on it. The only thing I didn't get yet was my t-shirt. I was supposed to get a Shemya t-shirt that says double dip. For some reason, I have not seen that yet. So I gotta maybe talk to Doc about that and find out what's going on with that. Maybe 2 shirts I should be getting. And my last story I would talk about is, I've been on and off the island for about a year and a half now, and my first rotation here, which was in December, about 1 week into our rotation, there was a emergency landing from Delta Airlines, I believe. It was a flight coming in from Beijing to Seattle. I remember getting the call. People were just on the radio crazy. They didn't know what was going on. We heard it was like a different plane. We heard it was some Russian plane, some other plane that was coming to the island. So everyone was getting all worried. So we had to like just run down to the airfield like as soon as possible. And it was probably like around midnight, 1 o'clock. And then I guess we finally got word that it was a Delta Airlines, and it was full of Beijing citizens coming to Seattle. So as soon as the plane landed, they all had to close their blinds because I guess they weren't allowed to see what was on the outside of it. And so they all got off the airplane, and they were just looking around everywhere, like wanting to know who we were. They were excited at the same time. They were asking us questions, and the other team was busting out cots for them to sleep on because they were going to be there for the next day or two. And I don't think most of them slept because they were just trying to dig around and see what was going on around the island. They wanted to explore the island, but they were secluded into that little hangar, so they couldn't go anywhere. So I guess that was an exciting thing for them, something different for them to see. Maybe a first experience of what a military base is like, and it's probably as close as they can get. After that, there was like a lot of, it was actually really windy out there too, and snowing, so I've seen people slip and fall everywhere. It was like a little crazy mess, but at the end it went well. And that's all of my stories for now. Again, my name is Joseph Albrecht, and this is your Shemya News.
Robert, will you introduce yourself?
My name's Robert Colley. So, first time I landed here in Shemya was 1975. I was on my way to high school at Kodiak. Back then, Reeves Aleutian Airline was flying. I grew up in Attu, 380 miles from here. So we take a tugboat from here and go to Eareckson and get on Reeves Aleutian. Back then, Reeves flew to Shemya Attu, and then after that, they would go straight to Anchorage. So we had to make that route. And then 2008, 2009, I came back as a culinary worker working with Delchin in the kitchen. And then I left, then I came back October 1st, 2013. I'm still here.
Wow.
So, but growing up in Attu, Shemya, my father and my grandmother are from Attu. My grandmother during World War II was in Dutch Harbor. How she got there, I don't know. But my father was in Attu when the Japanese invaded Attu, and they were taken prisoner of war. And you can stop it. All right. My father's name was John Kaltoff. He was a little boy then taken to Japan as a prisoner of war when the Japanese invaded Attu. So they stayed there till end of the war. And then after the war, the United States government would not allow the residents, whoever was left from Attu, to go back to Attu. So the village of Atka says, we'll take these people. So that's how the people from Attu, after the war, ended up in Atka.
And that's where you grew up.
Huh?
And that's where you grew up.
Yeah. Yeah, grew up out there.
And you learned how to survive off of the land.
Yeah. Everything we had out there growing up was canned goods. We didn't have fresh produce. The fresh produce that we had was from the land on the island. And we have the same vegetation here too.
Let's take a look at that.
Okay, I'm Leonard Lindsay. This is my Shemya story of many. So at the beginning of this video, you saw the Shemya Survivor symbol, which I created. And why was it created? Well, back in the day, the original boss contractor out here was a Chugach entity named SES. And when they moved, at a certain point, the contract changed over to CMI Delgen. And between that changeover, for a year, we had no island store. So no t-shirts were sold, no souvenirs were sold, nothing was sold. But being that we are a bunch of entrepreneurs out here, a good example of that is when we get to our Shemya story, I decided to take it upon myself, and I made the Shemya Survivor symbol. And for many, many years, I was selling these on island until my source, my sister-in-law, decided to shut down her business. But the Shemya Survivor symbol, like I said, began as just a simple thing of people who've been out here and have lived through it. And I'm not talking about your 2-day visitors, you're coming on a Monday, leave on a Wednesday, and I'm not talking about your 30-day visit. I'm talking people like me and Tim Lucas and those of us who've been here for more than a decade. And it's going on a second decade, and in some people's consideration, multiple decades. So this was started because we didn't have anything, and entrepreneurship is a big thing on this island, because if we can't get it, we make it. And that's the simplicity of the story. But when these came out, they sold, and they sold a lot of them. And we were doing really well with getting these t-shirts produced and getting them sent out here. And that is the story of the Shemya Survivor symbol. Now, as you look at the symbol, you will notice that there's two people running. People have always asked me, what does that two people running mean? Well, it either means A, they're running out of the water from the double dip, or they're running for the airplane because they missed the bus. So, and that's my short little story on the Shemya Survivor t-shirt, which we no longer provide.
A relic from the past.
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay. That's that one.
Okay.
Okay.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Chris Taylor, and this is my Shemya story. Let's see. I got here January 2005. It's been a pretty good experience. But for some reason, since I've been here, everyone has called me Raven. I don't know why. Raven is another firefighter who I work with. You know, we have to get a few things understood. I don't look like Raven. I don't sound like Raven. I don't walk like Raven. Most importantly, I don't look like Raven. That's the most important thing. But since 2005, probably 70 to 80 people have called me Raven, and it still happens to this day. But it's okay. He's a firefighter. We both wear blue. I'm sure that's what it is. So we'll take it as that. But it's okay. Raven's a good guy, so it's nothing against Raven. But I'm not Raven, people. I'm Chris. So when you see me, for those who watch this, my name is Chris, not Raven. Understood? I appreciate it. And that's my Shemya story.
My name is Raven. I'm a firefighter here on Shemya, and this is my Shemya story about how a fisherman died while on island. So back in about 2008, we were notified that there was a vessel that had a sick crew member that needed to come on board to seek medical attention. He was showing signs of pneumonia. So once we had authorization to allow him to come aboard, the ship docked. He was transported to the clinic where the PAs on island started assessing him. While they were assessing him, he coded, which means he lost consciousness and there was no heartbeat. So the PAs called the firefighters to assist them, and once we all arrived, we started performing CPR. While the firefighters were performing CPR, trying to get his vitals back, the medics were calling back into Anchorage to talk to the doctors there to see what could be done to try to help this man get his vital signs back. And after about 10 minutes of performing CPR, the man's body jumped off the bed. All the firefighters stood back for a second, looking at each other and the man to see if him jumping was him showing signs of recovering from his unconsciousness. And after about 10 seconds of us looking around and seeing him not moving, we all continued performing CPR. And another 10-15 minutes passed, and his body jumped in the air again. So we all stood back again and just watched and waited. It was at this time we were informed by the PAs that the guy had a internal AED, which was embedded under his skin, which was what was giving his heart shocks to try to get him to have another heartbeat. Once we were informed of this, we continued to perform CPR on him. And from that point on, when his body jumped, we just didn't stop. We continued to perform CPR. And after about 4 hours of performing CPR with no signs of life, the doctors then informed the PAs that we were to stop performing CPR because the man had passed away. And that is my story of how a fisherman died on island.
Wow. When was this?
About 2008-ish.
Wow. And did they ever determine the cause of his...
I'm not sure.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing your Shemya story.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, my Shemya story, this is it. It actually started in 1983. I was up for my first change of station. So I was a new weather guy at Malmstrom Air Force Base, and they wanted me to go to England. And I was really apprehensive about going overseas and stuff like that. And I had a brand new family and just got to Malmstrom, and I was poor and young airman and had no money and broke, and so I thought, well, I really don't want to go. So I asked them if they could take the assignment away. They said sure. So there goes the assignment. You could always turn down your first assignment as an airman back then. So I did. So I think I'm good to go. Well, like a week later, I come down with orders to Shemya. So I'm like, great. But I found a way to get a couple of extra military schools involved, and so I went to Raywinson School, which is the weather balloons, and then Rocketson, which is, we used to launch meteorological rockets. They're about 10 feet long and get upper atmospheric information. So it was good for the career. So there's only 2 places in the Air Force where we did it, Shemya, and then as a civilian down at Cape Canaveral, you could do it. Anyway, so I went to the schools, come out here. I'm 20 years old. It's 1984, and what a brand new world. Lived here in 600. Buildings 597 and 598 and 599 weren't even here. Population back then was like 1,000 in the summer and 600 in the winter. A lot more people out here, a lot of active duty, whole different feel. And but it was a hard year, to be away from your family. There was no internet. You just wrote regular letters and all that kind of stuff. And so, because I was a young airman and broke and poor and had a little, a young family, a lot of us tried to get a part-time job off duty so we could make a little bit of money and send home to the family. So back then there was 3 options. You had either work in the chow hall, or work in the store, stocking shelves, or the barber shop. So I went by and looked around, and the barber shop was open, and I asked them about if they had any openings, and they said, well, yeah, actually, you know how to cut hair? No. And, well, I'll teach you. And so I learned on the job and learned how to cut hair. And I do that also out here on the island. So it's not a barber shop per se, but I cut hair in the old barber shop for the guys out here on the island, and I'm quite a bit better at cutting hair now. But now I came back here 30 years later as a civilian in 2014. I've had a full career, have done all sorts of things in my life, but ended up right back here at Shemya 30 years later with a feeling of deja vu, that I've been here before. And so I do weather mostly at night and do the weather balloons, and brought my wife here with me. So we had our big wedding while we've been out here 2 years ago.
That's awesome.
And
Hi, my name is Joel Anderson, and I work for Trace Systems. I work for DISA, and I maintain some circuits on this island. Anyway, I've been here almost 4.5 years, and I've come to like the place.
And you haven't left in 4.5 years.
I haven't left in 4.5 years, and I don't care to. I'm going to have to leave this year, and it gives me great anxiety. I had such a hard time getting here, and I hate flying. And I only get 10 days vacation a year, so I just cash it out every year. And so, but I'm quite happy here. Any questions?
Yes, would you share a Shemya story, some experience you've had here that is a unique facet of the island?
Okay. Like, one thing is the weather that surprised me when I first got here. It was in May, and I decided, boy, it's beautiful. I don't need a jacket. It must be about 50 degrees. It was beautiful. So I started across the tundra, which is exhausting work. And I got maybe a quarter mile away, and suddenly a snow squall hit. I wasn't wearing a jacket. I about froze to death by the time I got back to the building. So that taught me you always bring a coat in Shemya.
Yes.
Okay. And then another time, it was about 52 degrees, and I took a walk. It was the warmest day in a long time. It was in June. Beautiful day. And that's where I saw a bunch of foxes and stuff like this. And it's shocking how you get used to the cold here, because I was just wearing, I was carrying my coat, of course, but I didn't it was very warm. It felt 80. And saw some foxes, and I climbed the cliff. I climbed down the cliff, first of all. These cliffs, they look kind of scary, so they're so steep, but they're really soft. It'd be, even if I fell, it'd be like falling down a blanket, down a feather bed. And then when this guy saw me walk in the wrong direction, he suggested that I walked the other way. I said, no, I think I'll go straight up. And he thought I was going to die going up that cliff, but it was actually excruciatingly fun. And I've gone down in very steep places too, and so I'd recommend it to anybody that likes mountain climbing or anything. It was very much fun.
Excellent. So you haven't left in 4.5 years, and this room has been your home.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the things in the room?
Okay, it's only about, I think it's about 280 square feet, and I've been scrounging around. I found 2 desks that they were going to throw away. They were soaking up water in the basement, so I grabbed them and I put my plants, as you can see, on them, and then I got some burn pile wood, and I got a couple of tools, and I made furniture to on the basis of a tiny home living. And so, I'm using maximum the maximum of the floor space, and I'm also going vertical, and that helps quite a bit. And as you can see, I have all kinds of food here.
What kind of plants do you have growing for those that can't see?
Well,
or I guess I can.
Yes. Well, these are jalapenos.
Jalapenos, yes.
Okay. Back here is a lettuce. Those are red radishes. Okay. That's more red radishes. This is bok choy. This is more tomatoes. There's basil. Okay, that's more bok choy, strawberries, and some. I can't grow onions for some reason, but I can grow them for the greens, and they grow very well. And this is my cheap way of aquaculture, and it works very well. I'd be willing to share my information with anyone.
Excellent. And over here you have some more.
Yes, more. This is expensive aquaculture, but I really don't see that it's better. But I really missed wonderful tomatoes, and these, you can't get better tomatoes. And so, like I said, once in a while I have strawberries, and why don't you take a look over here at these strawberries?
Yes, these are very nice.
Yes, and I don't get very many of them, but it's
more than we get in the dining hall.
Yes.
Could you also share about what's here on the wall?
Oh, okay, this is my prototype clock. Okay. And right now I've almost finished the final version of it, and I believe it'll be one of those beautiful. This is made from scrap burn pile pine.
And you made it here on Shemya.
Yes, in my office, believe it or not.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Okay, well, anything else you'd like to share?
Look at my kitchen. I've modified this place to have a nice kitchen. I eat very well here. I make some on my own. I make some chili. I make my own bread. See, here's my bread. I make bread.
Wow.
Bake bread. So I'm very comfortable. I do bean sprouts and things like that for some salad, and I make kalbi tong and, like I said, chili and sandwiches mostly, and since I can't get fruit, you can see all the fruits and nuts that I eat every day. This is my dessert.
Wow.
And between this and this wonderful gym here on this island that can't be beat, it really is outstanding. I'm at 62. I'm the strongest of my life. And my health when I got here was terrible, and now it's dramatically improved.
It's awesome. A Shemya Story. It's great. It's been quite a good place, it seems.
Oh yeah, it's been a wonderful place. Yes, I've recovered in every way. I'm much happier than when I arrived. This was the hardest place I've ever been to. I mean, and the hardest job I've ever had to adjust to. And now I'm institutionalized, and now I can't bear the thought of leaving.
Well, thank you for sharing your Shemya story.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emily Steele, and this is my Shemya Story. So I work for the 611th Civil Engineering Squadron. I'm a first lieutenant with them, and I first started coming out to Shemya back in 2017. My first trip, I think, was in March of 2017 with Mr. Wade Auld, if any of you knew him, a very wise engineer in our unit, and I was a brand new second lieutenant at that time. And our job is to take care of the long-term infrastructure out here and plan future projects, etc. So I was coming out here with Wade to look at all the infrastructure and see what was wrong and what needed to be fixed on future projects. And it was a pretty inexperienced lieutenant just following Wade around. And I remember the first thing we did when we got to the island, I'm like, all right, we got to get to work. Like, let's go see everything that needs to happen. And we had to sit down with the site manager, who was Bill Miller at the time, and a bunch of other people were in the conference room. And I'm like, all right, let's get to work. We're sitting there, and Wade Auld looks at Mr. Miller, and he's like, so how do we get the double dip set up for the lieutenant here? And I hadn't even committed at that point to doing the double dip, but now I was committed because Wade orchestrated it. So that was kind of my intro to Shemya. I think that trip was only a couple days. But the main story I wanted to share was the time I got a van stuck here on Shemya. So that happened later that same year. So I'd been out here for a few days with Wade, gone back to my unit, gotten a little bit more acclimated to being in the Air Force, and then came back out here, I think in June, or I think it was around June of that same year, 2017. And for that trip, I was the only person from my unit going out, and then there were several people from DLA that I was coming out here with. We were looking at all of their infrastructure because the Air Force still own it, but DLA was paying for improvements, so we were kind of looking at it together. So the people I'm out here with, one of them had been out here several times before. She was a GS-14, had much more experience than me, and I'm still like a pretty green second lieutenant, so I'm like, okay, great. I'm just kind of along for the ride to see what they think needs to be fixed, take notes, and report back. That was what I thought was happening. But there were 4 of us in our group, and we come out here, and we arrive on island, and they give us a vehicle, and immediately they're like, all right, Lieutenant, where are we going next? And I was like, oh, great, I've been here one time, but apparently I'm the tour guide. So we start going around the island, and we do all of our work, and we kind of put together a plan of what we're going to do. And the whole time, everyone keeps asking me what the next thing is, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm in charge of this group of people. I didn't realize that. So because I was in charge, once we finished all of our work, I was like, well, these people, because one of the people in our group had never been out to Shemya before, I was like, well, since I have a captive audience, we have to go see McDonald's Point and Shemya Falls and all of the important features of Shemya. So I had the van, and we started driving around looking at all these sites, and they were all good sports, and I'm like, okay, sure, we'll go along with this. So we go out and we see all the main sites, it's great. Well, the one thing that Wade had not shown me was the Shemya Forest, but I heard about it after I got back, and I was like, Wade, I can't believe you didn't show this to me, you gotta tell me where it is. So he told me where it was, but having only been to the island one time, I only gathered a general idea of where it was from his detailed description to me. So now I have this van full of people, and I'm like, okay, I kind of know where this is. We have time, so we're gonna keep looking for it. So we start like driving around the island looking for this forest, and we end up by building 110, and we're driving around, and I see like these old posts kind of out in the field back to the right of 110, and I'm like, oh, that might be the forest, let's go. So we start going down this road that was a road, but it quickly turns into like 2 ruts that then kind of turn into just a bunch of weeds. And I'm going along, and we've been driving all over the island, like in some kind of rough terrain. The van's been holding up fine, but I'm going along, and I'm like, this is probably not a good idea. So I stop, and it's too late. We're stuck. So that then results in like 30 minutes of us trying to get ourselves out of the mud, and there's one guy with us who immediately is like, oh, I'll get us out of here. So he's trying to get us out, and it's not working. Well, now it's almost the end of the day, and as a military member, we keep getting, like, they always tell us, like, make sure you don't ask CFSI to do overtime work. And so I'm thinking, like, 1, this is super embarrassing, I just got these people stuck in the mud. that I'm like leading around the island, but two, now it's almost the end of the day and we need to get towed out of here, and I'm going to incur like extra charges for the government if we don't get this taken care of before 5 p.m. So it's like 4:15 or something, and we don't have a radio with us, and we're stuck, and there's nobody around. And so finally I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go get help. And so I start running down the road to building 600, and I'm not even sure, like 100% sure that I'm going the right way, and I'm just like, oh no, this is terrible. And I finally make it back to building 600, and I'm like sweaty and just a mess, and now I have to like tell everybody this embarrassing thing that's happened and ask for help. And of course, everyone was really nice about it. Santa Claus was there, and I think he made the call to get somebody to come tow us out, and we were saved. And yeah, so that was just a fun everyday occurrence on Shemya and a growing up experience for me. So yeah, that's my Shemya story.
Hi, it's on the phone, which you can do nowadays as compared to what it was back when Shemya Net began, which was in 2004. This is our Shemya Net server room. Not much to it. It's actually been reduced greatly over the years from what it was, because, well, things have gotten more sophisticated since 2004. And this is actually technically our second server room, because when we began all this, it started all hubbed out of building 598. So Shemya Net began as an idea of a Mr. Clausen Drayson. Everyone on the island knows him as Charlie, and of course make sure you spell Charlie correctly. It is not Charlie, it's Charlie, C-H-A-R-L-L-E-Y, not L-I-E. It's Charlie, not Charlie. So what happened was in 2004, Charlie and I, who worked together on the missile defense side of the house out here, came out here to start putting the stuff together. And we had very limited network capability, which was only through the companies, the major corporation that was out here at the time. Or you had the option of dial-up. Yes, it was 2004, and we had people still using dial-up on island. And you were dialing up on a phone line to Seattle. So, which was which at that time AT&T had a deal out here where you could get a phone through AT&T, and you had basically unlimited calling to the lower 48. But if you picked that phone up and you called the state of Alaska, yeah, $5 a minute was so making a phone call to Anchorage was expensive. Making a phone call to the lower 48 was nothing. So Charlie and I got here March 1st. Charlie being a very technically minded internet type guy got here, and we realized that the only thing we were doing was we were living off our Boeing network at the time. And it looked like people were doing a lot of work out here because, you know, people would work all day and then they would stay in the office all night. Well, we were staying in the office all night because we were trying to get our banking done, and we were trying to get everything else you had to do in 2004 that you could do on the net back then. But it was also, like I said, the equivalent of dial-up. So Charlie, as of April of 2004, comes to me with this idea, and my response to that was, good luck on that, because I didn't think it was going to ever happen. So it started off as basically the basic idea was we basically run a cable between two rooms so two people could play a game. But because the networks were corporate owned and not all of us worked for the same companies, were corporate paid for through AT&T, and we had limitations. And I got to certain points where we couldn't even do our jobs. Couldn't even access our email because this company didn't want you to do that, and that's what we were sub through. And so Charlie, with his grand idea, took it and ran with it. And a year later, we had a dish with our own dedicated SATCOM, and of course favors had to be called in to get this hooked up. And we got it hooked up, and we, from a cable between two rooms, turned into a network to hook up to the SATCOM thing. And this all happened out of building 598, which is one of the dorms here, and this is where all the missile defense personnel resided at the time. Well, favors had to be called in to get this done. So one of the favors was, hey, you help us with this, we'll allow you on the net, because we'll have more than enough bandwidth at that time for just 2 people, so we'll be fine. And as things developed, starting in October with the getting of the dish, which was bought out of a company out of Anchorage, Alaska, which was bought, and then the dish arrived in January of 2005. The issue, though, with that dish is that with our current dish we're using, it is the most well-traveled satellite dish in the world. So it was bought out of Anchorage, Alaska, but because it was way it was purchased, it had to travel all the way down to Florida to be inventoried. So it flew all the way down to Florida. That's a lot of equipment. Be inventoried so someone could put a sticker on it. And then it traveled all the way back to Anchorage, Alaska. And then eventually get out here. And then by, I would say, April of 2005, we had the dish up and aligned, and we had a basic network set up. And ShemyaNet has come a long way from what it was. You weren't using these back then. First of all, these didn't even exist back then. I mean, you had the old Captain Kirk flip phone thing going on. So 598 was it. And 598 was it basically in one hallway, which was if you had to be on the second floor of A and B wing in 598, which I happened to reside at, Charlie happened to reside at, to get any network connectivity. And since we had called in favors, we developed a basic Wi-Fi system. Of course, everybody realized internet existed then over there. So the hallways of A and B wing in 598 became the great hangout place for everybody because they could grab their laptops and they could go to the hallway there and they could sit there and they could get on the internet and just drag down our bandwidth that we had. But it was useful because everybody did it. We had a commander out here. He was stuck out here because of bad weather. He was the one who became a big advocate of this. So basically ShemyaNet, which didn't really exist as ShemyaNet at the time, in any formal sense, it was basically a club of internet club that began. So people started helping us build stuff, loaning us equipment, and it was like, okay, well, you guys live on the first floor, you like to live so we expanded it to the first floor, and then we expanded it to the third floor, and then we expanded it to the rest of the building. And then, we got sick of trying to jump over 30 legs of people as they're going through the hallway trying to get back and forth to the laundry room and stuff and trying to get to work. So we put up an RF shot over to 598. And then, as time passed, that developed into a fiber ring between these buildings that was dedicated to ShemyaNet. And then when a decision was made to move people out of 598, so those of us who remained for missile defense moved over here, we eventually got to the point where we rehubbed the system out of, and let's show you this on the video, we rehubbed the system out of building 600, and if you look down here, let's even open.
Classic Shemya.
Yeah. Make that 11.
It'll just be cloudy.
So that dish that's not in a dome was our first, that was the dish we moved from 598 back over to here and rehubbed the system.
Let's see if we can zoom in.
You can go back later and take a picture of it. So that then spread to Wi-Fi and we started hardwiring different buildings and expanding the fiber out. So this all started in 2004 by what ShemyaNet then, wow. The club of ShemyaNet got to the point where we realized we had about a $300,000 worth of equipment and investment in this, and it was all basically in an individual's name because we were a club. And that then quickly turned into we had to formalize. So, of course, before we began with the dish, we got all the permissions from the Air Force to do this. Then we got the permissions to formalize ourselves into a non-profit corporation to operate out here. Formalized to the 11th Air Force, everything was approved, and we've been operating ever since. And we are now a formalized non-profit corporation Shemya is the ones who provides the ATM on the island. The ATM was provided originally because the only way to pay for Shemya was through cash. We have now advanced to the point where you can just go on your smartphone and pay for the connection directly. So, we have much better bandwidth than we used to, and it is the primary morale infrastructure item on this island. Give you an interesting story though. Shemya is also critical to the communications on this island. In 2019, there was a cable cut of the AT&T main fiber out to the dish for AT&T. Now AT&T provides our telephones. Also is advantaged, you can get internet through them if you're willing to spend 15 grand a month for a T1 line. We provide people anywhere from $100 a month up to $300 for 6 months for a T5. That of course you share, but it's a lot better and it's your own private connection. That got cut. When that got cut, I ended up having to be on a satellite, having to go get the satellite phone and stand on top of the tower to get a signal from the satellite phone, because the satellite phones work horribly out here. And then, of course, there's the great story of the guys at the Discus who got their satellite phone out, and when they called the operator, it was "Do Spidanya, comrade. Who would you like to call?" Because where we are in the iridium districting, we are actually in the Asian district out here. Yeah, not a really good thing if you're a military base to be going through the Russian hub. So Shemya became the primary comms until AT&T could come out here and provide telephone comms out here. If it wasn't for Shemya, there would have been no reliable telephone communication on and off this island. And of course that was through Wi-Fi calling, which now exists since 2013, 2012. So yeah. So now Shemya has went from, like I said, a wire between two rooms, one building with some connectivity so two people could do their job because of the limitations of other company networks, to now being the primary morale item on this island. And it's all thanks to one man, which is Mr. Klaus Charlie, with a Y, Andresen, the founder of Shemya. He is our founder. He's the one who developed it, he's the one who pushed it, and he's the one who came up with it so slowly, and he is still it's his baby. And he's advanced it and made it what it is today, and you can thank no one else but him. We've all helped and assisted, but he has been the driving force behind it. So even though this is not the internet you may be used to sitting at your house, it is the best internet in the Western Aleutian chain, and Shemya is the largest provider of internet access to individuals in the Western Aleutian chain, and it's a complete nonprofit. And besides supporting individuals individually, there's companies that come out here and depend on it when they do their business, and of course at many times the government depends on it to do their business, the Air Force and stuff. So, and that's a brief history of Shemya. Any questions?
No, thank you for sharing.
Okay.
It's a Shemya story.
Here we go again, part 2 of my Shemya story. Back in the day, my early days out here, we played basketball often. 3 to 5 days a week. All the guys, the firefighters versus the cops. Of course, the firefighters won, because we're the greatest. Don't hate. But there was a time when we ran out of basketball players. A lot of the cops got let go, so we didn't have as many people here to play basketball anymore. So I had to find another sport to try to conquer, being that basketball is a sport that I've conquered. Don't hate again. But so I said, you know what, I'll try racquetball. Now, the entire time I thought racquetball was, a sport for older people, you know, not for the young man. I thought it was a slow sport because I always saw older people playing it. But I said, you know what, it's another way to run, another way to exercise. Can't really play basketball, so let me try this, you know, this racquetball thing out. So there was a guy named Paul and a guy named Willis. These were the two older guys that, you know, were fairly good. But me thinking that, you know, I'm young, spry, I can beat these guys at racquetball, I can just go in there and win. It didn't work out that way. So, you know, they asked me to play, they told me the rules, and we started to play. I got spanked very, very bad. I got beat up pretty good. So at that point I was determined to play, and I had a newfound respect for racquetball, being that these old men just kicked my butt. So, you know, at that point it was not an old man's game, it was just a game. So they taught me the rules, learned how to play. Slowly but surely I became the best racquetball player on the island. And the two guys that taught me, I ended up beating them by the time they left. So, moral of the story, don't assume just because you see old people playing the game that it's for old people, because they have skills. It takes talent. You have to respect the game. I learned that. And, you know, for those who don't know how to play racquetball or think that it's an old person's game, you know, one of these days if you want to learn, by all means, let me know, let Raven know, he's pretty good as well, and we can teach you how to play. So that's part 2 of my Shemya story. Thanks.
All right, some of the vegetation here on the island are the same that we have in Attu. How you said that,
Lupine?
Lupin? This is a very beautiful flower. It's like a fireweed. As it grows and you look at the top of it, it turns out it's like a fireweed where you could tell by the time it blooms up here, summer's over. But the root on it is edible. It's, you could eat it raw, peel it, eat it raw, or boil it. So, I like it, it tastes good. This flower here is, our name for it is Sluka Amare in Aleut, because it looks like a seagull, yellow beak, white. So they called it the seagull flower. But you dig up the root and then turn around and peel the root on the inside, you'll find a little kernel. It's yellow like corn, and you can eat that.
Huh.
And then I had some guy out here try it. He said it tasted like corn. So this here, we call it a halig in Aleut. The root on this one is, to me, we used it like a wild potato. It, from one plant like this, you probably get maybe about three bulbs from about that big to here.
Wow.
And the way they cooked it was they turned around and steamed it. Grandma used to put rocks in the bottom of the pot and turn around and moss on top of the rock, and then put the potatoes, pile it in there, and then turn around and put moss back on it, and then put some water in it, and then put the cover on it and steam it.
Wow.
And it was good. It's good hot and good cold. But those are... And then Scruffy was planted here on the islands by the Russians for fur trading purposes. So,
Do you have the scruffies on Atka?
yeah, all the islands had Scruffies at one time, and then in early 90s, Fish and Wildlife eradicated them.
Because they weren't native?
Well, they're trying to, it's a wildlife refuge out here, so they want the birds to come back and nest. So the rat was an issue. So now in Atka, after they did Emily Island, this turned out and we found out that there's more birds now.
Wow.
So they are coming back, the birds are coming back now.
Wow. What were your homes like?
Our homes? We had, before the war, we used to make sod houses. And sod houses was made, dig out side of a hill, turn around, and we got a lot of wood on the beaches, turn around and split them, and then make the house frame, and then use the logs to make. We used the walls of the hill as our insulation. Then we turn around and made the roof. The houses were probably like 16 by 20 size. And they were big enough to family of 3, 4. Build a fire in there. So.
What would you use as a floor covering?
Rocks. The beach rocks. So. And then for the bedding area is, we got all this wild, like rye grass or whatever it is out here, it grows wild. But in the fall, when it turns brown, down on the beach, you'll see mounds of grass, dead grass. But if you dig into it, you'll find something like hay. And you put that on the floor, so it's like a mattress, but it also helps keep you warm. So that's what we used to do. Now, the only sod houses that are existing in Atka right now are survival camps, what we call them. So maybe every 20 miles we would have a sod house. Some of them are not taken care of. Roof cave in, but that's easy to fix if you're there. After World War II, we used to take a 55-gallon drum, cut it in half, and then turn around and make that into a stove. Because our roof is only like 8 feet high in these sod houses. So it was easy to heat, enough to put a pot on there for coffee, tea, and make soup.
Wow. Have you ever been to Attu?
I've been to Attu once, but I didn't get off on Attu, so I was on reefs. Back then, we weren't allowed to go to Attu. I guess I didn't get the message that I was supposed to wait in Shemya back in '75. Because we used to sit down there in the hangar and wait till the plane came back, then we board back up again. But I stayed on the plane when I went to Attu. So I looked at the mountain area, and while they were unloading, I sat there in the plane and looked around.
Yeah.
That's the only time I could say I've been there.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Huh?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. But also, the fish out here are the same kind of fish that we got in Atco. There are some different fish out here too. My grandparents used to say that Attu has different salmon. But to me, it's salmon that's rotating between Russia and Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's closer than.
My name is John Semenik. I have been at Shemya for 13 years. I arrived here May 16th, 2007. My original job was ICC technician. ICC stood for Information Coordination Center. We were the de facto 24-hour point of contact. We monitored the fire alarms, answered 911 calls, responded to emergencies such as medical emergencies, in-flight emergencies, fire alarms. In 2015, all non-airfield assets got moved to security base, and we are became the weather department. At one time, there was only one weather observer and a backup. I was his backup, and now we have 4 weather observers here. Originally, we were under the ICC was under the fire department. It got realigned under the airfield, so our supervisor is the airfield manager, Don Llewellyn. In addition to working up here in the tower, I also enjoy, I'm the secretary of MWR. I've been in that position since 2017. I help Dolly, who's the president of MWR, with organizing events such as bingo, 4th of July barbecue, Halloween party, and the Christmas party. There have been quite a few changes since I've been here in the 13 years. Most notably, some buildings have gotten torn down. The chapel, 3 warehouses on South Beach Road. In fact, actually, what's interesting is that we could see those buildings being burned from here.
Wow.
Yes, it was. Actually, what happened was the fire department used to be 24/7, and they were tasked with, I don't know if they were doing their buildings and grounds, I can't remember, but the fire department was involved in watching the prescribed burn of those wooden warehouses that were on South Beach Road, and we could see the smoke coming up from the burning warehouses, and they smoldered for a few days, and every 2 hours they had to go monitor to make sure it was smoldering in a controlled area. There are a few fire department personnel who are here now who were out there then. They could tell you more about it than I can.
That's pretty cool.
It was really cool. Hangars 6, 7, and 8 were recently torn down. I think it was about a year and a half ago they were torn down. I don't remember the exact date, but I think it was over a year and a half ago. I'm sorry, no, not hangar. Hangar 4, 5, hangar 2, 3, and 4. I misspoke. So hangar 2 was in the far end, near the old fire station. Hangar 3 was that platform over there, and hangar 4 was over there. Let's see.
Have you found any artifacts around there?
I have. In fact, they're in my room. I have to find them. I found a bullet and a few marine. I'm not a geologist, so I'm not sure. They're very smooth, white rocks with little crater holes in them, but no artifacts. Let me see. but I do enjoy jogging around the island. I enjoy going to the old launch site there. I don't know if you've been there.
The Queen's Match, yeah.
Yes, Queen's Match. I've been to McDonald's Point. In fact, actually, in recent years, this McDonald's sign have gotten blown off due to strong winds, and it's been replaced. I haven't been there in over a year, so I don't know if there's a sign there or not.
There is, but it's very faded, so we're working on painting it again.
There's also a sign where it says Shemya Grand Canyon. That's also faded. And another sign says Shemya Falls, a natural wonder.
We're repainting those as well.
One thing that I wish would come back, and this is part of my Shemya story, is to go bike riding and jogging in this area. The Shemya Cemetery, where it says the Aleut gravesite. And in 2012, something happened, and the managers could tell you about it more than I can, but I don't know if the skeletons were moved or the 611th told the company they couldn't maintain it anymore, so they removed the head markers and just replaced it with a white cross. And they don't cut the grass around there. There used to be a white picket fence around there. B&G during the summers, once a week would go cut the grass and make it look really nice. There were few flowers, and there was 2 or 3 markers, and I have pictures of that. If I could find them.
I'd like to see that, yeah.
Aleut gravesite.
Yeah.
And I hope that would come back someday.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I think the skeletons are still there, but I don't think the Air Force, it was in the new contract for them to maintain it.
No.
Or maybe they were moved, and they came back. I'm not sure the whole story behind it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yes.
To get back.
I enjoy going jogging on North Beach Road. In fact, what's interesting, another thing that's changed is there used to be a road that went up from North Beach Road, spiraled up, and you would be right at Building 110.
Is that the one that has the antenna across it now? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And in 2007, a few months after I was hired, there was a series of boulders that came down. And I guess the old security company that was out here, Pickerton, was doing roving patrols. And they were driving up and couldn't drive up anymore. So after that road was closed down.
So rather than move the rocks, they just closed the road?
They just closed the road off.
Okay.
Yeah, not even advisable to walk up there, let alone drive.
Huh.
Yeah, it's impassable. One of the interesting artifacts, big artifact, I can't fit, is a rock grading thing. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know what that was for or why it's still here.
That's pretty cool.
And I think there were 2 docks here because it looks like there was remnants of another dock.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Let me see if there's anything else. I have, in my 13 years out here, I've done the double dip once in 2012, and I had a cough for several days. I'm checking the clock to make sure my op goes out in about 5 minutes. And I have yet to go fishing. However, in my 13 years out here, we've had numerous in-flight emergencies. The most memorable one, there were 2 memorable ones. One was in December 24th, 2018, where we had the Boeing come out here. Boeing, Delta Airlines, Boeing 737 or 75, I have to look that up. They were stuck out here for a day and a half. The passengers had to sleep in Hangar 8, and they had to send an empty Boeing plane to retrieve the passengers, and another aircraft with a maintenance team and equipment to repair the first one.
Wow.
They had an engine failure. Another one was in 2010, where we had a American Airlines flight coming from Asia. I can't remember what country. They were Chinese, Japanese, Filipinos, and Americans, and they were landed here because there was a false indicator of fire in the baggage hold, which was a faulty indicator, but the pilot had no way of knowing that, and the station manager at the time allowed the passengers to get bused, and they made many bus trips to the dining facility, and they had dinner there, and the dining facility stayed open until about 7:30, 8 p.m., and then the pilot says, okay, we got to go now, and they rushed the passengers back to get them off before so the pilot wouldn't violate their crew duty day, but they didn't have time to get the bags back on. So they had to send a special Linden out here to retrieve the bags. Well, I think it was going to Asia, coming from America, going to Asia, so they had to get a special Linden to get the bags to Japan.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
it was
funny.
an odd sight seeing children out here.
Yeah, and I heard they wreaked havoc in the library.
They what?
Wreaked havoc in the library?
I don't know about that. They didn't wreak havoc there. They kept it pretty, but they did. There was a line. I remember this. There was a line going to the library because they had to use There was no cell tower. One of the most humorous anecdotes. I didn't see this, but the fire department saw this. People took out their cell phones and were like, "Why am I not getting any bars?"
Yeah.
That was funny. No, they formed a line in the library, and Charlie Andreas helped them get Wi-Fi access on their smartphones. Or I actually volunteered to let them use my calling card, so they could call their family and friends and let them know where they were at, so they can. I volunteered my time and my minutes on my calling card, so they could call their friends and family and let them know where they're at.
That was nice.
And so they would use the phone in the library, in the dining hall, and the third floor day room smoking area. And yeah, that was. How did you know about that?
Oh, I've been asking other people's stories.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. I never heard that term, wreaking havoc in a library.
Yeah, well, they were saying that the library still hasn't recovered, and that's why everything is so messed up in there. But I don't know. That was
No, we just have so many books, and we don't have any volunteers to organize the books.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they may have. I was actually upstairs because there was a phone up in the third floor day room, and I remember.
Yeah.
I remember helping them make calls. I remember there was this one woman from Texas. She was about 10 years older than me, had a thick Texan accent. And I said, "Yeah, use my calling card." She goes, "I haven't used a calling card in 10 years.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, there have been a lot of changes. There's a lot more personnel when I was first hired. Several departments got shrunk. The fire department used to be 24/7. The old security company was Pickerton. Then they lost the contract, and then now Shemya took over. Did the work they used to do.
Mm-hmm.
B&G had a lot more people. I remember electrician, the electrical department had 6 people. HVAC had 5 or 6. So yeah, there was a lot more personnel back then. The food was a lot different 13 years ago. A lot more variety.
Mm-hmm.
And Linden came once a week instead of once every 2 weeks. The old passenger plane was Phoenix Air when I was first hired. Then it switched to FlightWorks, and now we have Mountain Aviation.
A lot of changes.
Yeah, and then our rotation schedule was different too. Then we went back to the old rotation. We were 9 weeks, 3 months on, 3 weeks off. Then we were 9 weeks on, 4 weeks off. Now we're back to 3 months on, 3 weeks off. So there've been a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for me?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing your story.
Oh, you're welcome. We can continue this in the media room downstairs if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.